evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Audit and Standards Committee. We have apologies from Councillor Stubbs. Do we have any other apologies? I think most other people are here, aren't they? We have two councillors substituting, Councillor Annabelle Lawley and Councillor Richard Gorton. So welcome to both of those. Item number 2 then is the declarations of interest. Do any members need to make any declarations of interest in relation to items of business on the agenda? No? Okay, thank you. Item 3 then is the minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody had the opportunity to read through the minutes of the previous meeting? Does anybody have any questions or comments in relation to them? No? Okay, I shall move on. Item number 4 then is the Corporate Risk Management Report, and Simon Sowerby is going to just give us a brief introduction on that. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Chair. If I could take members, please, through page 1 recommendations, starting with number 1. Note that there are currently 14 risks that are more than 6 months overdue for review up to the end of Q1 23-24. So that's up until June 23. The relevant service areas have been approached around these 14 risks, and we've made some inroads into reducing those. Item 2 talks about, asks us to note the 5 risk level increases, and those risk level increases can be found at 2.2 over leaf. And again, I'm in the process of contacting the relevant risk managers to understand what those increases are. So I'm happy to circulate the responses once I've received those to members, if members would like that. At 3, we say, note that no movement on the corporate risks, so there's nothing to report on the corporate risks there. 4, we seek to advise officers of any individual risk profiles that the committee would like to scrutinise in more detail at the next meeting. So happy to take that on board and bring it back to the next meeting if members have any risks that they'd want to highlight. And then finally, it's just a note to say that whilst the likelihood of a risk materialising may be mitigated, the likely impacts may not change. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, do we have, excuse me, do we have any questions on this report then?
It has to be asked. Sorry, thank you. It has to be asked. I mean, obviously, these risks are simply describing the risks that are there. Presumably, as you say, all departments relevant have been approached. As town councillor, I'm obviously concerned about the arson fire risk, which is one which is difficult to mitigate in view of the fact that it's unoccupied. I know that's not the council's responsibility, but the surrounding area, there's a dog van there with no dog in it, probably as well. But the safety of that site, fire apart, is a matter of some concern to residents. Could you, through the chair, give some idea of how these risks can be mitigated and what the time frame's likely to be? Thank you.
Yeah, I think what we need to do there is engage with the owner of that asset to understand the progress being made on securing the site, making the site safely or safety-wise protected to some degree, and then look to ensure that the adjoining property, obviously our property J2, is significantly protected should there be any issues around the building and the safety around that.
Thank you. It's going to be difficult to sue people who are skint. So if anything did fall on anybody or anything did happen with J2, it might be difficult to recover any costs. That's the other matter of concern. And, you know, it's sort of looking beyond the immediate risk and into, you know, if you like, the risk to surrounding properties and infrastructure. It can't be safe.
That is a worry, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, just wanted to pick up on a couple of the comments there. As part of the corporate risk review, I sit on that board, and it obviously the Sky building has made its way onto our grey system because of all those things that you've just been talking about. I know that our Deputy Chief Executive is constantly trying to find out what is happening with the building, whether there's any progress in either the development continuing or whether it's going to be purchased by somebody else. The security, I have seen the dog actually in the van there, so I know that there is a dog. Yes, yeah, Alsatian, yeah. So yes, there is a security present there, and there is a dog there. Thank you.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is if we take on the responsibility of the risk of the Sky building, we take on the culpability of it as well. Whilst it belongs to someone else, they're the ones responsible if anything does drop on someone's head. If you start taking on too much risk management for it, you can then be perceived to be the person responsible for anything that happens. And I don't think, whilst you can be a good citizen and a good counsel and say to people, you must take care, what we can't do is take on the responsibility ourselves, because then we become culpable.
Maybe you can clarify that. So I don't think we're actually taking on any risk, are we? We're just monitoring the risk as it stands. So
It was just answering what Councillor Brocky raised.
any other questions on that? No. I'm just wondering whether one of the items that we look at are the individual risk profiles that the committee is going to scrutinise. I just wonder whether maybe at the next meeting we have that aspect of the building, and I know that we're not necessarily taking on responsibility, but perhaps if we were to just look a little bit more deeply at how we view the risk to this council from that building, and just see if we can get a little bit more information on that. Okay. Right. If there are no more questions, then we'll move on. Thank you, Simon. Item number 5 then is the internal audit update for Q1 23-24. And I'm pleased to say we've got John Bembo here from Stoke-on-Trent Council, because his immediate superiors got the lurgy at the moment, I understand, so she's unable to join us tonight. So John, if you'd like to give us a quick rundown on that report, we'd be most grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just briefly take members through the report. This is the first monitoring report of 2023-24, covering 1st of April to the end of June. If you look at table 1, excuse me, during that quarter we issued 2 audit reports, neither of which received a negative opinion. 1 report in respect of general project governance corporately received a marginal report, having 14 recommendations, 7 of which were medium, 7 of which were low. The main areas for improvement relating to framework and procedures, to monitoring and management, training and guidance. Following on from that, take members to table 3, you'll see a table of the work in progress at the end of June. And just going down to paragraphs 2.4, 2.5, at the end of each quarter, we undertake an exercise to get management updates on recommendations. As at the end of June, 347 recommendations were made, of which 303 had been implemented. At the end of that quarter, of the 44 recommendations that were not implemented, 19 had not yet reached their due date for implementation. Of the remaining 25, 14 related to the previous year and 11 related to earlier years. You will note that 11 of the recommendations are expected to be actioned when the planning enforcement plan is approved by Cabinet this month, which I believe it was last week. Just to complete this, if you look at Appendix A, summarising the overdue recommendations, you will note that one is of high risk. This relates to an IT governance audit which was carried out, and from the management updates we are aware that steps are being taken to resolve that recommendation. Thank you, Chair. Summary of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions on this report? No? Okay, thank you very much. And give Claire our best wishes and hope that she's well soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Item number 6 then is the statement of accounts for the year up to 31st of March 2023. And it's the external audit findings report. And I believe that Andrew Smith is on screen now, and he's going to give us a rundown on what a fabulous audit we've received. So fire away, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just make sure you can hear me fine? Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
That's fine.
Yeah, bro. Okay, well, first of all, I just want to start with an acknowledgement really in terms of the finance team. I'll get into the detail of the audit report, but just to say we have received yet again a really good quality set of draft accounts from the finance team. And also they've been incredibly supportive, as always, during the audit process, being very responsive to our various and numerous requests over the last few months. So I do want to pass on my thanks to Sarah, Craig and the rest of the finance team who've supported that. I really want to underline that because actually you will know from across the sector that many audits are actually well behind, and a big part of that is because of the quality of financial statements that have been received and the slowness of responses received to audit queries. So it really is an achievement in terms of what the finance team have produced, and hopefully I will go on to just confirm how good those accounts are through the rest of the reports. So just in terms of the key findings, first of all, just to say the audit isn't quite complete. The main thing outstanding is the pension fund auditor assurance. As part of our work on the council's pension liability, which is in the accounts, we do need some assurances from the pension fund auditor, the statutory pension fund auditor that is, which is EY. We have asked them for a date as to when we will receive that assurance report from them. And they've communicated to us that it won't be until the end of October that we receive that report. So once we've received that report, we'll obviously review what it says. We'll do any additional work if required on the back of that report, and then we can hopefully sign off soon after. Obviously, it somewhat depends on what that report says, but hopefully if there are no issues in that report, we should be able to sign off in early November. But that is the main thing that is outstanding on the audit. In terms of our audit findings, it is a relatively clean set of accounts. There's been no adjustments to the numbers in the draft financial statements. We did identify some audit adjustments, mainly relating to the valuation of the council's London buildings, but those amounts amounted to a relatively trivial amount, and therefore management have chosen not to adjust for those differences, and we completely accept that on the basis that they are immaterial to the overall financial position of the council. We have raised one new recommendation this year, which is largely in relation to working papers, and we've recommended that management discuss that with the incumbent auditor ahead of the 23-24 audit. We've also followed up recommendations from the prior year. I'm pleased to say that of the 4 that we raised in the prior year, 3 of those have been addressed, but there was one which we've had to effectively kind of reissue, which relates to the completeness of the register of interest, where we have identified some undeclared interest on the register. Again, But what I can confirm is that we didn't identify any transactions with the bodies that had not been declared. But again, we do need to raise a recommendation around the need to ensure that the register of interest is complete. They're the main findings in relation to the accounts audits, and that is a relatively clean set of audit findings in comparison to many other authorities up and down the country. So that is a relatively clean report. And on the back of that, we are expecting to issue an unmodified audit opinion on the council's financial statements. Just to give you an update as well, before I take questions on value for money work, our value for money work has just started, and we are intending to report that later in the year. We're hoping to get that all completed in the next couple of months, and hopefully report it to the committee either at the next meeting or certainly the one after that. But we're certainly aiming to complete the report and get it finalised in the next few months. More than happy to take any questions on the detail in the report, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. That's most encouraging, and the report that we've got certainly reflects the comments that you've made. Do we have any questions for Andrew on the statement of accounts and the audit report? No. I don't think there's too much that anybody can ask, really, Andrew, if we're honest. But Stephen, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a question, Chairman, but thank you for those words. And I'd like to put on record, really, the thanks to Sarah and Craig and all their team behind them, of course, that do a lot of the heavy lifting of this. And I think this has been an absolutely superb audit. Last year's was excellent, and this is even better. I think there's 4 recommendations last year. There's 1 this year. So next year, none. That'd be good, wouldn't it? But no, they've done a really brilliant job, and I think it should be acknowledged as such. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Do we have any other questions or comments? No. Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. And obviously, we'll see you later on. But thank you for your report and joining us this evening. Obviously, as Stephen said, thanks to the team, they've done a cracking job on this. And if you look around at the things that go around in the public sector and so on, some of the councils are in real trouble on their audits. Some of them are 2 years behind and so on. And we're very fortunate to be in a situation where we're bang up to date and we're getting a truly excellent audit report. So congratulations to all the team and thank you very much. Okay. The one thing that we do need to do in relation to that is I just need everybody's agreement to delegate the authority to the Service Director for Finance, i.e. Sarah, and myself to sign off the statement of accounts once the Staffordshire Pension Fund audit has been completed. Is that okay? Is everybody happy for me to do that? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Item number 7 then is the work programme. The only item that we've sort of come up with at the moment is that it may be advantageous for us to move either the November meeting or the February meeting slightly, depending on when we get the value for money report. But we don't have a statutory time limit on that applies to us. It only applies to Grant Thornton. So the chances are that there won't actually be a great deal of point in doing that. So I'm inclined to leave that. But what we'll do is, if there is anything, I'll make sure that everybody's informed about it. And the chances are that we'll probably report on that at the November meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the work programme? No? Okay, thanks. Item 8 then is urgent business. I've not been notified of any urgent business that we need to look at this evening. So it just remains for me to thank everybody for coming to the meeting and wish you a good evening, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.